Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we are joined by Dre from Prophecy Comics, talking about a brand new Kickstarter he's got going and how you can back him. Later on in the hour, we'll be talking with the current scribe on the Iron Man comics for Marvel, Christopher Cantwell. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek and Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight, hearing us on the Big 550 KTRS, welcome to you. If you're streaming us out there in the world on the World Wide Web, we appreciate your finding us and tuning in. And, of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form on SoundCloud, on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast from, we appreciate your subscribing and listening there each week. We have a full show. It's a comic book themed show, which is great. My first guest right now on the phone with me is Dre. He's got Prophecy Comics and a brand new Kickstarter he's got going on. Dre, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, I appreciate the time tonight. I love talking to people who start these Kickstarters out because, A, so far I've never had one that I've had on the air fail, so this is good. We want to get you to your goal, of course, but also it's amazing to talk to these indie comic creators who are putting out some fantastic stuff. Talk a little bit about how you first decided comics is something you wanted to do.
Well, I wanted to do comics because I was a film. Well, I still am a filmmaker, and I wrote a script, and I would just write the script what am I going to make that I have enough money to do. And as I started writing more and more of the script and finishing it, it was it just was out of this world. And I was like, I can't make this into a movie. I gotta get it to the people fast though. So some just hit me making a comic book, and I was like, whoa, that would be cool because I would be able to do all I want in comic book form. And from there, it just blossomed into something else, and I just took it there. That's what I wanted to do with it.
And Heavy as the Hand, is that the original concept, or has it kind of changed and fluctuated from when you were originally thinking about this as writing a screenplay versus into a comic book? How much has it changed since you first conceived of the idea? Well,
it was called Sledgehammer at first, and it did change a couple times, and to be honest, the name just literally came from a place in my mind or in my soul, and it just spoke. And I was like, hey, wow. At first, I was like, heavy as hand, da da da. Heavy, the phrase, heavy as the head that wears the crown.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, okay, how would this go? Heavy as the hand, because she has a sledgehammer and she's delivering justice with it and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, that would be dope. And then that's what I went with.
And I love the whole idea, too, because it's this passed down through these generations from her great-great-great-great-grandmother, and there's all the imagery and just some of the art that you've got on your Kickstarter page. And by the way, if you're listening right now, we're going to have a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. So if you're hearing this on the podcast form after it's already aired, go down to the show notes. We'll have a link where you can back this on the Kickstarter. But you've got some of the art there from the first issue, just the imagery and then just the description of this. It seems like it's a very deep meaning to it with all the supernatural, the cosmic. It's got the horror elements in it. So it's kind of got a lot of things that should tick a lot of boxes for people who want to read something different.
Yes. The main thing while I was writing all this stuff, because of representation and everything, I've been really thinking to myself and like talking to my niece, like what type of stuff do you want to see in the future? Not this, but like I was just like, shoot, like I want to see more characters who look like me. That's what she said, and I was like, So like I thought like what would Disney do? But like what would he do if he was in my shoes as a black man? And I was like, okay, start doing this, start writing and start asking questions in my community, and I just went forward with it. I just went forward all the way and trying to do more, like making characters and plot lines around darker skinned black people and stuff.
And obviously, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Dre Ellis, who's the writer on Heavy as the Hand. The concept art for this that I'm seeing on the Kickstarter by Chavis Cole is just very simplistic, but it's very haunting almost is the image I'd use, because it's got that hammer, it's pulsating with this energy, and it's got the red dripping down. Was this something that you kind of threw some ideas out for Chavis, and then this is what they came back with, or was this all talk a little bit about the concept for the cover art?
Well, yes, we shot some ideas at the wall. Like I was like, I want a hammer in the wall and just have it all white and like it's and he was drawing. He was like, matter of fact, I'm gonna make it like it's breaking through the white of the wall, and like you'll see the brick behind it, and it's like the blood. And I'm like, oh wow, and like when I gave him the idea, he actually made it better, and I was like, oh, and I started to trust him more and more with it, and like he's going to be doing like a lot of my concept art from now on, because I love a creative mind that when I can throw them something, they can transform it into something else. And it is like almost like haunting, because the character is just like you know how Michael Myers is like just show up or disappear type stuff, almost like that. And like she's supposed to have this terrifying element to her. Like if you see her, then you must have did something bad or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like I said, it's just that's the sign of a good collaborator. If you kind of threw some ideas out and this is what they came back with and you're blown away, that's the sign you've got a good collaboration, if you're on that same wavelength. Yes. And this is something, again, for those of you who might not be familiar, Kickstarters are a great thing. A lot of artists and writers go to Kickstarter because they don't want to have to go to somebody else. This is all creator-owned properties. So this is something that Dre and the people who he collaborates with, they're going to own all this. They're not going to have to worry about a larger company coming in deciding, well, we're going to take the character this way. They get to keep it on their playing field and do with it what they want to do and see their vision fulfilled. So I know if you're a longtime listener to the show, we've had other people come on with their Kickstarters, and this is your chance as the listener to get out and back these creators who are doing these brand new things that are unlike other things you're seeing on there. That's one of the reasons I get so excited about talking with creators. So going the comic book route, obviously, you've got your goal set up right now. I think your goal is $22,000. That's for, I guess, all the production, the comic art, everything done to get it all out and distribute it. Have you talked to anybody like a larger financier? Did you decide to go the Kickstarter route after pursuing some other avenues, or was Kickstarter always what you decided you wanted to start out with? Well, I didn't think about doing Kickstarter first because, like I said, it was going to be a movie script, and I had talked to a producer like about the making it into a movie and stuff, and like haven't got back to me yet. And like it was just something in my soul. It's like do it yourself, build your world, build your universe first in something where everybody can touch, like first, and then film everything you just built. And I was like, that just made me want to go to the Kickstarter route and just I'm just going to raise the money and do it myself, make it creator owned, and hopefully in the future I get to also film my films about it.
Yeah, that's one of the great things, too, because if you start out with all the concept stuff and you've got the comic book background, and that we're seeing so much of that, especially with things like Why the Last Man and Invincible starting out as these comic book properties that immediately get turned around and picked up, and we just saw, Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix and everything like that. They're made into a streaming service or a film, which obviously that again, would scratch that itch for you as well if this gets turned into that.
Yes. It was just like I was watching. I watch a lot of like TV and shows and stuff, and like just watching them. Even Walking Dead was a comic book, and like I don't think people know that, and like it just turned into something else. It broke into 3 different shows, and I was like, if I can create something and just build the whole multiverse around it, and just let people see what's it like in our lives and in our communities, but in a different way, like through sci-fi, through adventure, through like this whole cosmic universe is based in cosmic horror. So meaning there's things out there that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
You feel me? So like it's all based in that. So like with these superheroes, they will be facing things that's beyond their comprehension.
So is this going to be, how far along has this gone out? So you've got the story in place. Is there already in your mind like, oh, this character, this can be spun off into their own thing? We've got a sequel story planned if this really takes off. How many moves in advance, how far out have you planned already, if you can say that without spoiling anything?
If it got picked up, I would probably have like 4 movies and 6 shows already.
Nice.
Like in my head, like I got a lot of stuff written down in the scripts I've been working on, but it's like so much, it has to be told in the comic book first because it's a lot of explaining.
So was that hard for you to narrow it down from, like, you had this screenplay and this universe all built and then kind of trying to funnel out things for just the comic book series? How long of a process was that for you to kind of, you have to distill it down into the comic book so it's digestible. It's not this vast movie thing, which is great because you get to do more, but obviously you probably had to go through and kind of weed out certain ideas that weren't going to work for the first comic book. Was that much of a process for you?
No, it wasn't much of a process. And like when I wrote this script, which is like, as I was writing it, I left stuff out on purpose. So that's all I'm gonna say. I left stuff out on purpose so people can ask questions. I want people to ask questions and like, wait, why is da 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 da? Like it's all gonna be presented through the story or in the past if I make a prequel book. But all of it will be presented so I can tell the story right. And like you said, so I won't have to like fit too much in. Mm-hmm. I'll just bring all that back later on so I won't like confuse people. You get what I'm saying? Yeah,
absolutely. And if you're listening right now, again, if you're listening on the Big 550 KGRS, this is someone local. They're here in the St. Louis area. Dre is from East St. Louis. You're a self-taught artist. And how early on in your life did you know art is what you wanted to do? Like, because you do musical performing and production and screenwriting. How early did that bug kind of bite you that you decided that this is kind of where I want my life to go?
Freshman, like for real, before freshman year in high school. And then throughout high school, it was music first. And then like after high school, it was still music. And like when I like turned like 23 around there, it started turning into like screenplay writing and like filmmaking. And like that's when I started watching a lot of movies. And like 4 years ago, that's when I really started writing my scripts. Mm-hmm. And like, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And I was writing my scripts and like shooting my short films and my musical short film. And that's on my YouTube. But besides that, that's when I really found out when art hit me. It was the beginning of high school.
And it's great that you've got that opportunity. Like you said, with the YouTube, it's amazing to think that even 10 years ago, none of us would be able to do some of the stuff we're doing now. There's YouTube, and there's people who can film stuff on their iPhone, and the technology to get your project in front of the eyes of all these people. Just like I said, 10 years ago with the internet, this would have been possible. So this is a great time for you to be doing what you're doing.
Oh, yes. Man, YouTube is just a blessing because, like you said, I learned a lot from YouTube, as in like studying older filmmakers and people who didn't make comic books before me, and people who like did music before me too. And it's just like I couldn't have did that. I could have did that before YouTube came out, but it would have been extremely hard.
Right.
Because, man,
No, it's amazing, especially like I said, with even within our phones, all the tools that we have to film stuff and edit things right on our phone. It's just amazing. As you're going back and looking at some of these directors, and you started getting more and kind of deeper into the film, who are some of your, you'd say, inspirations? Like someone like Scorsese, or some of the older people like I'm trying to think, Alfred Hitchcock. Who were some of the ones that really impressed you the most as you started viewing more and more of these films?
I know Spike Lee. John Singleton, John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Clive Barker, Andre Tarkovsky, Gordon Parks. I'm trying to think, and I would say the person who made what's his name that made Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, Tolkien is the writer. I'm trying to think who the film. Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson. Yes.
Yeah, as far as when you said John Carpenter, and I know Halloween Kills is getting ready to come out, and that's one of those franchises. There's the Halloween franchise in general, but John Carpenter knows his horror movies. That's
yes.
Right up there on the top of my horror list as well.
Oh yeah.
And again, if you're listening right now, we're talking with Dre Ellis all about his Kickstarter. And again, if you're hearing us after the fact, we'll have a link in the show notes. If you're listening currently, if you just go to Kickstarter and search out either Heavy as the Hand or Prophecy Comics, it should come up. We can back the Kickstarter here. You've still got a month to go. You got 30 days to go, so this is entirely doable. And again, if you are listening and you're in the greater St. Louis area, this is someone local. It's a local creator who you're helping out, and this would be a fantastic project to back. The art is gorgeous. If this gets all the way to its conclusion, I've been told, I've never done a Kickstarter, but I've been told by some of the people it's so much work. What are some of the challenges that you found that as taking on this Kickstarter that you're coming across like, oh my gosh, this might be a little more difficult than I thought originally?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is getting the work done and then putting it in the comic book form and mailing them and shipping them out. Because right now, since it's COVID, a lot of stuff will be delayed. But I feel like that's the hardest thing is when it's done. And we not have to start really mailing stuff out and packaging and stuff to protect the comic books. Mm-hmm. So people can actually get their stuff in one piece. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing if you back a Kickstarter and then the stuff arrives all broken and or it gets mangled in shipping, and then of course you've got to. That's another thing on your end where you've got to come up with another book to get sent out. So hopefully, I know we've just talked about the slowdown with the USPS. They've announced that they might be slowing things down, but hopefully people are patient. As long as they arrive in good shape, it can get there a little slowly. That's fine. So again, let me hear it from you. If people want to back this project, if people want to keep up with you on social media, you mentioned your YouTube channel. Tell people listening right now all the ways that they can find you, that they can support you, that they can help you. Give out your Twitter handle, social media, YouTube page, everything else. What can they do to look for you?
Well, you can follow me on Prophecy Comics on Instagram, Prophecy Comics, and my profile picture is pretty much, it says Prophecy Comics in it. It's a white photo. Same thing with my Twitter, but it's an underscore between Prophecy and Comics.
And then is there a general website if people want to go from there to like go to your YouTube channel or everything like that?
Oh no, we don't have we don't have a website yet. We're working on that, but right now all we have is the Instagram and Twitter.
Okay, so people can follow you there, and then, like I said, we'll have a link to the Kickstarter, or if you're listening right now, if you're in front of your computer listening, just put in Kickstarter and search either Prophecy Comics or Heavy is the Hand. You can see all the different ways there are to back Dre's project right there. You've got you can just throw $5 at it just because it's something you want to do, you want to believe in this project, and you want to help it. You can go up to the $50 level to actually get copies of the physical comics. They got foil variants, which I'm a sucker for a variant comic. I love that. But there's all sorts of ways you can support this project. And it's, like I said, the indie creators like yourself, Dre, are putting out some fantastic stuff. And I'm very excited to see where this project goes. Dre Ellis from Prophecy Comics, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, and we'll have you back on. We discussed later I think right after the first part of November, we're going to have you back again for an update so everyone can see how it's going, and we'll get another update from you on this if you're still up for that.
Oh, yeah, I'm up for it. I might, yeah. I'm definitely up for it. I'm definitely up for it.
Perfect. We'll have you on again then. And again, if you're listening right now, Kickstarter.com, search for Heavy as the Hand or Prophecy Comics, and you'll find ways to back this project. Dre, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you very much. We're going to take our first commercial break. We'll come back in just a moment. We'll be chatting with the author of the new Iron Man comic for Marvel, Christopher Cantwell. Please stand by.
Hi, this is Robert Hayes, and surely you can't be serious, but you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
We are back. Geek to Me Radio. This segment brought to you by our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. You can go to the website, marcustheaters.com. Maybe you haven't yet had the chance to get out and see the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die. You haven't seen Venom vs. Carnage. Dune will be out on October 22nd. Lots of good movies. And, of course, Halloween Kills out in theaters as well for the Halloween season. The best place to see these movies is at Marcus Theaters. You go to the website, marcustheaters.com. You'll find the location of the Marcus Theaters or movie tavern closest to you. You can even join their movie rewards program, get rewards and points for going to see the movies and for buying your snow caps and your popcorn and things like that. And with their special deal they've got going on right now, their Sunday Passport, enjoy 4 movies for $20 now through December 12th of this year, and that also entitles you to 20% off all your food and beverages. And if you're going there for dinner and a movie, a lot of these have the in-house places you can just sit down and have a meal now, or you have them where they'll bring the food to you before your movie starts, and you can sit there and have your libations and your burger while you watch a movie. Check out the website. Again, the best place to go for the start, marcustheaters.com, for the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. We had Robert Hayes bring us in, the voice of the animated Iron Man in the 90s series, which was one of my very favorite cartoons. They had that and Spider-Man, the animated series, all from the 90s. We've got the guy right now currently writing the Iron Man book with those gorgeous Alex Ross covers that come out, and we've got a brand new issue due out Wednesday of this week. We have Christopher Cantwell on the phone. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. I appreciate the time today. This is one of those books. Marvel has had books come out that I'll end up picking up, and then I have to get every issue. Immortal Hulk has been one of those books. Hellions has been one of those books. And this relaunch of Iron Man has really been kind of a breath of fresh air with all the different ways Iron Man, this character, and Tony Stark have gone in comics over the years. Talk a little bit about getting assigned to the book. Was this an idea for the story that you pitched, or did someone pitch it and they said, Chris is our guy to write it? How did it all come about?
Well, let's see. I mean, gosh, I got to go back in time a little bit. I mean, I started in comics, through the indie route. I was in the TV film world, which I still am, and I started working on a creator-owned book with Karen Berger, who created Vertigo at DC back in the day, through her indie imprint, Berger Books. And then that kind of parlayed into different opportunities until Will Moss, who's an editor at Marvel, he reached out and said, "Do you want to do just a 10-page story for like an ancillary character as part of the War of the Realms crossover event that Jason Aaron was kind of spearheading at the time. And I said, of course. And I was, so excited. I didn't even know who the character was at the point. And he came back to me a couple days later and said it was Dr. Doom. And so I just flipped out. I did a bunch of research and just put everything I could into that 10-page story, which was the first thing I did for Marvel. And then from there, Tom Brevoort, who's kind of a legendary editor over at Marvel, reached out to me and said, do you want to pitch on a Doctor Doom series? And I said, yes. And so I went as hard as I could on that, and I read absolutely everything I could and put together a pitch for the story of that. And that turned into the 10-issue maxi series I did called Doctor Doom. And we were incredibly lucky. Me and Salvador LaRocca, we were nominated for an Eisner for that book, which was great.
Yeah.
So as that book was wrapping up, Tom reached out and said, hey, we've loved everything you've done on this book so far. What do you want to do for Iron Man? Do you have a pitch? And so once again, I put together just a crazy 20-page document that folded in Korvac. That was my big my big ad was I wanted to bring in Korvac, the villain from the 70s that had gained cosmic powers and had kind of several permutations himself. And I wanted to pit him against a Tony who was really just trying to discover his humanity again. He was trying to rediscover it. And so, I looked for a way in for the character for me that would really feel personally resonant. And so I went with the kind of like greasy, arms, monkey wrench kind of mechanic Iron Man. And so he starts the series off with one suit and it's in a briefcase and you can see his eyes again. And that was kind of the way into the pitch.
And I like this, too, because they've done different things with Tony Stark and Iron Man over the years, having him lose the use of his legs when Bethany Cabe shot him. They've done all sorts of iterations. Obviously, he's died a couple times. But this is something that we've seen done. I loved it when Green Arrow, Oliver Queen, lost all his money in the comic books. This is kind of that same thing. He hasn't got Stark tech behind him anymore. He's not, the billionaire playboy philanthropist. Like you said, he's taken him back to his roots almost of just, he is an inventor, he's a genius, and stripping all that other stuff away feels like a very fresh approach that has not been taken on Iron Man before. Is that something you always kind of played with in the back of your head? Wouldn't it be cool if this happened and that just happened to be your chance to pitch it?
Yeah, I think it was, I love the character, and that Bob Layton kind of Iron Man look was something that I remember where it spoke to me as a kid who grew up with a dad who loved cars, worked on cars. I grew up working on my own car in my garage. It was just a big part of my adolescence, and so and especially after what Dan Slott had done, which I thought was great in Tony Stark Iron Man, which was the series preceding mine, which was very focused on like AI and machine rights and that kind of singularity, kind of Ray Kurzweil transcendent man storyline. I wanted to bring it back to the metal of the suit and to the mechanics of it, and the allegory there was really rich for me, just the humanity of the guy, the man in Iron Man. And so, of course, he's Tony Stark, so he can say he's going to go on this, humility sojourn, but, it takes time for that guy to really dismantle his ego and really figure out who he is. And so that's what at this point, we're a year into the story. That's what the whole story has really been about, is him having to put his money where his mouth is when it comes to him saying, I just want to be a regular guy, because that's almost impossible for him. It was before he even became Iron Man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the tweet you put out not that long ago was said, with the release of the 12th issue of Iron Man, we're getting ready to hit issue 13 here coming up on Comic Book Day, new Comic Book Day this coming Wednesday. This is your longest running comic book you've ever had on the shelves. How far out does your plan go as far as Iron Man? Are you hoping that, hey, after the Korvac saga wraps up, I've got also this place I want to take him in? Is there any, do you have any idea how long you'll be attached to the book, and how many other ideas do you have that you can maybe give us a hint of what's coming?
Yeah, look, I want to stay on the book as long as they'll have me on the book. I've got the Korvac saga, or our Korvac saga, I guess, which is called the Books of Korvac. That goes through issue 19 or so. And then 20 is a little bit of a kind of dramatic pause, like Sejour, just brief breath of air, like a one shot. There's it's going to be fun, but there's like kind of a bigger kind of character moment in there. And then, I pitched Marvel on what I want to do next with the book and what the next arc would be. It's not going to be as big as the Korvac arc, because I pitched that as 19, 20 issues, and that's a year and a half on the comic book shelves, so that's a while. I'm amazed that we got to pull it off, but the next one is meaty and different and takes the guy that we've built over the last 20 issues and goes in a new direction with him that I'm super excited for. So barring any catastrophe, in sales or something, I don't know, it's Marvel, so it's a big machine, but you never know when you'll get the phone call being like, you're done, sit down. But I'm hoping we get to go and do this next arc. I'm excited.
It's very exciting, just the stuff you've done and the characters you brought in. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that as well. I need to take another commercial break. Are you okay to stick with me for another segment?
Of course.
Perfect. We're going to take this next commercial break, then we're going to come right back, continue our chat with Christopher Cantwell. If you're listening right now and you want to shoot us a text on the KTRS text lines, you can feel free to send that in. If you have a question for Chris, 84126. Just put who you are, like this is Bob from Fenton or this is Emily from Kirkwood, and I have a question, and put your question. We'll try to answer it on the air. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come right back, continue talking Iron Man. Please stand by.
Hi, this is Dean Devlin, director of Bad Samaritan, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. Want to make sure we tell you about our premier sponsor. That's the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. If you're a longtime listener, you know the website that I'm about to say right now. It's discoverstcharles.com. That's discoverstcharles.com. They just kicked off their Legends and Lanterns Festival out there. If you're a Halloween fan, this is going to be the place you want to go visit in the next couple of weeks here. It goes on the rest of the weekends in October, except for Halloween weekend. It's a free event. The whole family can come out. There's always something going on in St. Charles, but Legends and Lanterns is fun because Halloween's my favorite holiday. It's a great time of year. You can get out there and interact with characters like the Gingerbread Witch, with Baron Samedi. The Queen of Hearts are out there, and it's a lot of fun. They're doing karaoke with Phantom of the Opera. This is a great time for the whole family to come out and just have some fun. And if you're, whatever it is you're looking to do, if you're looking to just spend some time outside, bike ride the Katy Trail, get some food, do some unique shopping, this whole area in St. Charles is made up of these small businesses, which, as we know from COVID, are so important. And it's great to get out and support small businesses like this. If you're listening and you're from out of town, you're looking for someplace new, maybe you want to get out and travel, you've been cooped up for a while, St. Charles is a great place to visit, and they've got stays from first-class hotels with world-class accommodations to bed and breakfasts. You can do camping, there's Airbnbs, whatever kind of place you're in the mood for, St. Charles has something to fit the bill. Start with the website to plan your trip, whether you're here locally and want to get out and enjoy the festivals and just have some fun, or you're coming from out of town and want to see something new and exciting. DiscoverStCharles.com is the website. Once again, DiscoverStCharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. We're talking with Christopher Cantwell, the current scribe on Iron Man. He's also working on some other projects coming up, but we want to stick with Iron Man for just a moment. One of the things I loved is the group that Tony brought in to help him, consisting of people like Misty Knight, Gargoyle, and Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider. Was this always the team you had in mind? Was there certain characters you were allowed to have access to? Talk a little bit about having these characters in the book.
Yeah, no, I was very excited to bring in that group. I knew at some point when he would really kind of mount this mission to go after Korvac and go into space, which I always wanted to take it to that place, just because the whole thing of Tony trying to get back to his humanity and reconnect with this kind of humble spirit, I wanted to take him to the cosmos and have him face, literally the power cosmic and somebody who's trying to be God. I wanted to build a small team of people around him that would make him feel small time. I think like Tony is a guy who, as much as he professes to want to be just an average guy at the beginning of our book. Like, he just can't be, like I was saying earlier. And so, you know, there's a situation early on in the run where he can't really reach out to anybody, or he'll end up putting his buddy James Rhodes in danger, because Rhodes has been kidnapped by Korvac and his disciples, which are made up of some great Bronze Age Iron Man enemies as well. And so he and Hellcat, Patsy Walker, put together a list of kind of also-rans, or people under the radar that they don't think will raise any suspicion. So it's like, you know, I needed to create it's weird when you're writing a solo book, right? Because you can't, like, you can't just have Tony pick up the phone and immediately call the Avengers. And I wanted to have this book really be about him. And, you know, part of the mandate for the book was to break him out of some of the molds he'd been in for a while. So I have him, you know, bring in Misty. I have him bring in Frogman. I have him bring in Gargoyle, Scarlet Spider. And I did a lot of research on who made sense. And then there was also the mechanical question of who would actually be available, you know, from Marvel. So I had to check with the editors, obviously, to make sure, you know, who's doing what. So, like, Gargoyle made sense because, you know, Patsy had been on the Defenders with him back in the day. So that was somebody that she could pick up the phone and call. You know, Misty made sense just because she has some tertiary connections to Tony. I also wanted to get, you know, just somebody that felt really kind of great and gruff and street level, you know, out in outer space. I thought that would be fun. You know, I thought, you know, I love Ben Reilly. I love Scarlet Spider. Yeah. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I grew up reading the Clone Saga, all of that stuff. So I checked. That was the one I was like, is this allowed? You know, and Tom was like, yeah, I think that should be fine. They checked with the Spider office, and you know, it's funny because this issue 13, which is kind of our big battle royale that happens on Galactus's world ship. You know, everybody kind of gets their star turn on this team that Tony's put together over the last few issues, which are called the Space Friends, which is something that Tony names them in this issue, kind of impromptu. And so, but it's the last issue where Ben is actually going to be in the book, just because he's now a major part of the new Spider-Man relaunch with, you know, Zeb Wells and what everybody's doing over there. So it actually worked out perfectly. I'm able to dovetail it out, and because of things that happened at the end of 13 and where 14 picks up next month, some time will have passed, and it will be referenced that Ben's gone back to pick up the Spider Mantle once more. And then I wanted someone that felt completely useless in space, and so that to me felt like Frogman was a great ad there. But again, this issue 13, like, I try to give everybody their kind of awesome hero moment, and Frogman gets his, man. I wanted to give old Eugene something cool to do. So there's some good moments for everybody. And then, of course, once Rhodes is out of captivity, you know, he comes in and tries to shut what Tony's doing down, and he ends up getting drafted along with everybody else, and so it just becomes so rapid in terms of the pacing that you know, Rhodes is along for the ride, in part to make sure that Tony doesn't kill himself in the process.
And this is one of those books, like I said, along with like Immortal Hulk, that has just hooked me from the very first issue. I've been reading this, and I almost don't want this team to disband. I'm hoping somehow we keep the Space Friends together, because it's so cool to see these characters. Like when Frogman showed up, I'm like, I guess Gibbon and Grizzly weren't available, but it's so cool that there's all these little Easter eggs. Like, you've got Frogman and Scarlet Spider, which that's one of my favorite costumes for Spider-Man, right up there with the black costume. Yeah. But to see this group together is just so much fun. The book is fun. I love it.
Yeah, I wanted it to be fun. I mean, I you know, there are themes we're playing with. There's some depth to the story. There's some drama. You know, we're actually doing an addiction storyline for Tony. I think that is part of his character foundationally, is that addiction mindset, and I think we found an interesting new way into that. So that is alive in there as well. And I will say, what is good news is that the Space Friends aren't they don't disappear. This issue, some serious stuff goes down at the end of this issue. 14 and 15 are pretty out there, just because I wanted to take Tony way out into left field before he literally returns to Earth. But when he does, there are some people that know him best and what he's been through best, and that is the Space Friends. So, as Ben and Misty kind of exit through the revolving door, the Space Friends are maybe Earthside around 16 and are still hanging out, trying to figure out how to deal with Tony Stark and everything that he's gone through in the last few issues. And some new folks join in to help out, which will be fun.
And you mentioned Tom Brevoort, and I got to give Tom a shout-out. He's been on the show a couple times. Just what a wealth of knowledge he has, because we had him on right before the launch of Disney Plus's What If series to kind of talk about our favorite What If stuff, and he just, the knowledge he has behind him just blows me away. So he's obviously got to where he is in the Marvel ranks for a reason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the thing I say about Tom is that if there were some kind of guru on top of a Misty Mountain that had a comic book shop, on top of that mountain, it would be Tom. Tom sitting kind of in lotus position out front of the comic book store. I feel like that's his role, and he has definitely helped shepherd me through the organization and really been there since the beginning. And he's been great. He's been really wonderful to work with.
And obviously we're talking about Iron Man, but there are other titles coming up. You mentioned off the air that November the 10th is kind of a big date for you as well. Yeah, no, November the 10th, I've got my first kind of crime comic debuting. I have not done anything like this, but I've got a mini-series with Boom Studios called Regarding the Matter of Oswald's Body, and it is a JFK conspiracy book over 5 issues. I'm from Texas. I grew up there, and I'm really excited about this book. It's very offbeat. It has a kind of ragtag band of losers and also Rand's quality to it, a little like the Space Friends. And so I'm just really excited to finally get to tell something set in my home state. It's a little bit of a love letter to it, a little bit of a condemnation of it, and all wrapped up into a really great book with some wonderful art. And it's been great to work with those guys. And I've also got on November 10th, the same day, the final volume of my very first comic book that I was mentioning earlier, She Could Fly, the book I did with Karen Berger. We're getting to do the final volume and close out that story. It all comes out at once, partly due to the pandemic. So you can pick up the trade in the stores, volume 3. It's called She Could Fly, Fight or Flight, and it's the last chapter of that story, and I'm glad we got to do it the way we wanted to. It's been great to work with Martine Morazzo and Karen, and Richard Bruning, her husband, has designed the book, and it's been really wonderful. And the crime one sounds intriguing. You mentioned being from Texas. Did you, as a person with a background in writing and producing for TV, did you see I think it was on Hulu, it was a series called 11/22/63 with James Franco? I did. I saw the first episode of it. I didn't stay with it. I'm just kind of overwhelmed with TV like everybody else. Sure. TV is very similar to comic books in that way, right? Where comic books, there's so much stuff on the shelf. And with TV, with all the streamers, there's so much stuff to watch that it's hard to keep up. But I did read 11/22/63, the novel, when it came out, which was huge. I mean, it was a massive tome, and I devoured that. So, I was a kid who saw, my dad, for some reason, took me to see JFK when I was 9 years old in the theater. I don't think he thought through what it was and wasn't really aware of the content, but nevertheless, and it was something that I watched. It was horrified by, and then also was like, wow, wait a minute, this happened down the street from us. So it was just something I grew up with. It was kind of always haunting the background of the city skyline. Yeah. And as we mentioned with your TV background, writer and producer on projects such as Halt and Catch Fire, which I love the 80s elements to that. That was such a fun show. With the writing and producing for TV, was it the transition to comic books? Was it something that just kind of fell out? Was it something you wanted to do, or is writing, whether it's for a movie? Obviously, mechanics are different for comics versus TV, but talk a little bit about transitioning. Yeah, I think that for me, I was a huge comic book kid growing up. I grew up in Texas, and I went to places like Lone Star Comics, which is still around. I went to a lot of different little places. My parents would take me. My mom would take me. I had my little subscription box where I got my Clone Saga books with Ben, that was back in the day. And now I get to be writing them, which is cool. I think that
But I mean, I always, first and foremost, I've just been a huge movie person. I went to the movies with my parents every week. I saw 40 to 45 movies a year in the theater with my parents, growing up. So it was just something we did. My dad would look in the paper and figure out what we would go see, and we would go see it. And so that led to a love of movies. And I ended up going to USC Film School when it came time for college. I did a summer program at Northwestern that I really loved, and I kind of fell in love with movie making and decided to try to pursue it in undergrad. I went to the screenwriting program at USC, and then I kind of just, you do a lot of odd jobs here and there, and I did that for 8 years or so before I finally broke in. And the first thing I did was my partner Chris Rogers and I sold our pilot Halt and Catch Fire to AMC in 2011, late 2011, and we were in development all of a sudden on a television show, which was absolutely crazy. So that's where I've been forever. But I comics have just been so near and dear to my heart. And when this opportunity came up to talk to Karen about an idea, I had actually reached out to Miss Marvel creator Willow Wilson, who's just one of the best writers working today, and she was a fan of mine from Halt, and I was a fan of hers in the comic book world, and I kind of just reached out to her over Twitter and said, hey, if I ever wanted to, how do I do this? What do I do? And she was the one who put me in touch with Karen, and it was such an incredible thing. She really opened a door for me, and likewise Karen, and then it snowballed from there. So it's funny. I'm actually not working on a television show at the moment actively. I'm a comic book writer professionally, first and foremost, right now. I think that, hopefully I'll get something going here soon, and I'm taking some pitches out, but and I've always got my foot in that world. I'm sure I'll be back in the showrunner seat at some point soon, hopefully soon. And but in the meantime, I'm just having a blast getting my comic book scripts in. It's been wonderful.
And again, we're wrapping up our talk with Christopher Cantwell tonight on the new Iron Man coming out again. The issue 13, the big one, comes out this coming Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. Go to your local comic book store and pick that up. There's a lot of stuff out there, great content, but Iron Man for me is a must-have book each month. As we're wrapping up, we've only got about a minute left. Tell people where they can find you online if they want to keep up with you, see what you're doing, websites, social media handles, things like that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the big one for me is I'm on Twitter. I'm at If You Cantwell, which is how I'm able to tell people how you spell my last name. It's If You Cantwell. That's where I am. I'm tweeting mostly about comics, once in a while some TV stuff, and once in a while just random things my kids have done that have irritated me that day. So it's pretty much that's where I'm at. That's
Perfect.
Where I'm at.
And again, hopefully we can have you back on. We can talk about the crime piece from Boom once it comes out, because that's always a fascinating topic. And this has been a fantastic chance to talk with you and catch up. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it greatly.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime. There he goes, Christopher Cantwell. If you're listening right now, if you're hearing this on the live radio and you missed part of it, you can go back and catch it, because obviously my producer, Joey B, will go back and edit the commercials out. It should be up on the website and online later this week, so make sure you go to geek2meradio.com. You got the archives. We mentioned Tom Brevoort's been on the show a couple times. You can go back and catch those episodes as well. And we just had a great, for the online show, we drop an online show usually midweek. We just had Tom DeFalco, a 2-part interview with him, which was brilliant, talking all about the stuff he's done. Just the imprint he's had on the comic book realm has been incredibly fantastic. So make sure you check all those out. And again, if you haven't already, follow me on social media at Geek to Me Radio on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Geek to Me Radio. We'll keep bringing you content. A brand new live show next Sunday here on the Big 550, and an online show dropping each week. Until then, my friends,
It's not in the way you look when you make it
616. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek2me. Bit.ly/geek2me.